Okay. I am the Y2K collector, and I am here to finally present to you my 2023 video game collection. Now, I could have done this in my normal production format, but I wanted this to feel the same way it would normally feel if you just invited a friend over and invited them to see what your game collection looks like. So this is going to be off the cuff, really raw, and it's just going to really get to the heart of what we're here to see, my video games. That's really what we're here to see. So I don't want to do too much jabbering or blabbering, but I do want to just kind of give you a high overview of what's in my collection. So I've been collecting for a little over 10 years. I've bought and sold my collection. I've almost completely sold everything that I have before, and I've literally sold my collection all the way down to a PlayStation 2 Slim and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. There was a point where those were the only things that I had in my collection. Since then, I've actually worked to build my collection back up, and I have roughly around 775 games. And I would say I probably have somewhere between 25 and 30 consoles. There's probably more. If you stick around for the video, you may see more consoles than I've said just now. And this video is going to be broken up into two parts because I tried doing it as one video, but it'd wind up being like an hour and 20 minutes. And I don't think anyone wants to sit around for that long. So I think it's just more digestible if I break it down this way. I don't have the best setup. My shelving system isn't, super neat. But again, we are here to see one thing, the video games in my collection. So let me stop talking and let me go ahead and dive right in. What you're looking at right here is a box. This is the current, well, obviously it's a box, but this is a box of controllers. Unfortunately, I don't have a better way of storing my controllers. So I've tossed them all in this box, and this is where everything from my Neo Geo to all my PlayStation controllers, GameCube, Dreamcast, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, all the consoles you could think of, or all the consoles you'll see in my collection, all of my controllers are in here. So yes, if I haven't played a console in a while and I want to play it, I do have to dig in here and find the controller. But until I find a better way of storing those, this is where it's at now. Right next to this box is where I keep all my box of AV cables, power adapters, power cords, controllers, S cables, all that stuff is kept in this box. And again, these two boxes I don't really touch unless I'm going to, dig out a system that I don't typically play. However, I try to keep the systems that I'm playing out and somewhat connected. Even if they're not completely connected, I try to keep them close enough so that if I do need to test out a game, I can get to the system and test the game out. Which takes us into this next section, this horrible section. Look at this mess of cables and cords. But again, that's because I'm still working on my setup. So hopefully a couple years from now, we can look back at this video and say, wow, we've come a long way. So here on the floor is my PlayStation 3 and my Xbox 360. No, that is not a reverse compatible PlayStation 3. That's just a regular PlayStation 3 that I test all my PlayStation 3 games out on, or play PlayStation 3 games on. And then my Xbox 360 is also connected to this game testing station that I have here. And I'm going to back out just so that you can see what the game testing station looks like. Here I have connected my Sega Dreamcast, my PlayStation 1, and then my NES. And then when I need to test N64 games, I'll break out the N64 or bring out the PlayStation 2 or the GameCube. But we're going to get to that in a second. But let's talk about what's on this shelf. So what's on this shelf is a pretty cool screen. This was a screen I found at a Goodwill for like 20 bucks. And I knew that this would be perfect for me to use in terms of like exactly what I use it for, just to test games or play games. When I want to make sure something's working, I'll use this screen for that. Here I have this pretty cool PlayStation Lite that I'm sure millions of people have. You could have got this at Target like last year. Back here I have a complete in-box copy of Magician Lord for the Neo Geo. Gotta love that. And then this really, really clean copy of Metroid here in my NES top loader. Gotta love that. So really cool stuff here so far in the collection. We're already 5 consoles in and a couple games in. Now it's time to start diving into some of these cubbies, and we're gonna go ahead and start with this one. So in this cubby here is where I have my original fat PlayStation 2. So that's what's here in it. It's got my memory card, and I think there's a game in here, copy of Gran Turismo 2. This is just an iconic console. Gotta have it in the collection. Also in the collection on this cubby is where I keep my fantastic purple N64, the best colorway in my opinion. Only colorway as good as this one is the teal, in my humble opinion. And then back here is where I pretty much have all or the bulk of my PlayStation Vita and PSP games. I know it's dark, don't kill me. I'm not going to pull everything out here, but I am going to shout out some notable ones, including Grand Kingdom, Odin Sphere, and Dragon's Crown. These are great games that kind of all fit within the same type of genre. Another couple cool ones is Gundemoniums and Bunny Must Die. Here, let me get in here a little bit. So Gundemoniums, Bunny Must Die, that's also a pretty good one. Gravity Rush is a good one. Skyforce is a really cool shooter. Lost Dimension, if you've never heard of that series, check it out. Robbie Ribby, pretty cool platformer. Vasara Collection, an amazing space shooter. Bastion, if you liked Hades, that game Hades that was real popular a couple years ago, you'll really like Bastion. Shinobito 2, that's one that not a lot of people know about. Here we've also got Muramasa Rebirth. That's a really cool game. Tales of Hearts R, Soul Sacrifice. Yeah, a Persona 4 Golden, Spelunky, just a lot of really cool Vita games. And then of course this big boy here, this special edition Metal Slug 3 for the Vita. This is not a Neo Geo game. This is actually, it just came in this like old school Neo Geo box. And then back here is where we have a bunch of PSP action, right? So here's where I've got a lot of my PSP games. A couple notable ones that I'll shout out here in a second. Let's kind of remove some of these and see what's hiding back here. I said I wasn't going to pull them out, right? But here I am pulling out my games. So a couple notable PSP games we have back here, and you may not be able to see it, but we've got Eve 7, Ys the Oath of Felghana, Lunar, Metal Slug XX, Phantasy Star Zero is another cool one, Power Stone Collection, Garuman, A Monstrous Tale. Those are some really cool PSP games. We have some more PSP action back here, some notable ones as well. Steambot Battle Tournament is a huge one. Kenkabancho Badass. This is a really cool 3D beat 'em up game on the PSP. Check that out if you've never heard of it. Phantasy Star 2, Chili Con Carnage. Hey, that's a good one. If you were a fan of like Max Payne back in the day, you'll really like Chili Con Carnage. This is like Max Payne meets like Grand Theft Auto, like Vice City. This game is pretty cool. Hexy's Force is a classic. This is probably the most expensive RPG game on the PSP. If I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments. Darkstalkers collection. So a collection of pretty cool Darkstalkers games here on the PSP. Gataru Man Lives. That's another really cool one on the PSP. So I got a little bit of heat on the PSP. I got a little heat on this console. I actually wound up selling a lot of my PSP collection as we were coming out of the pandemic. Yeah, as the pandemic was ending, I found myself getting rid of a lot of PSP games and a lot of PS Vita games because I realized that the Vita and the PSP, for some reason, they're not consoles that resonate with people for some reason. I think like at the time of the Vita's heyday, what was happening was a lot of people were really into the DS and the 3DS. So those were like the DS and the 3DS were like the big dogs at that time. And I think that just the Vita wound up really just appealing to a more mature audience. And I just don't think the nostalgia is there for the Vita like that. So that's why I wound up selling a lot of my collection, and I only kept the Vita games that really interested me, and pretty much got rid of everything else. So that is what is in this cubby that I have here. Just a couple of pretty cool consoles, and then the bulk of my PS Vita and my PSP collection. Then now moving down on over here to this cubby is where I've got some more pretty cool systems. So obviously the first thing that pops out is this behemoth of a GameCube. So on this GameCube, I do have the Wavebird connected. I've got a memory card connected here. And then I also have the Game Boy Player. So this is pretty darn cool. Can't play the Game Boy Player without the disc. I don't think the disc is inside there. But this GameCube that I have also came with an attached screen. So if I'm not connected to my TV, I can do a quick test of GameCube games. This is where I test any GameCube games I pick up. And I don't typically pick up a ton of GameCube games, but this is one of my GameCubes. This is probably the GameCube that I actually wind up playing the most. And then in here, you also have, my PlayStation 2 Slim. The nostalgia between me and this console. The PS2 Slim got me through college. Like, seriously, got me through undergrad. So, PlayStation 2 Slim is also on this shelf. Two consoles that I really love. And then the Wavebird. I did have a Wavebird back in the day, back in 2002 or 2001 when the GameCube came out. I did get the console with the Wavebird, so I have that in my collection. Also in this cubby are the boxes for one of my Vitas along with my PSP. You see the Wii U gamepad there, and then some special edition PS Vita games. Probably the more notable one is Metagal and Knit. Those are some pretty cool PS Vita games. And yes, I need to dust, guys. I need to dust. I apologize. It's been a very busy November so far. And so, like I said, you know, this is kind of more so on the fly. And if you were here with me in person, I'd be taking you through my collection the same exact way. So that's cubby number 2. So not bad for a first couple of cubbies. Now moving over to this cubby, we first have to look at the stuff that I removed from this cubby, which is a couple of 3DS games, the NES Remix, WarioWare, and then the Amazing Spider-Man. Also, my most expensive 3DS game, this sealed copy of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate on the 3DS. Has a bunch of cool stuff in there, including a little figurine. This stuff normally sits here in this cubby, but I removed it so that I could show you what's hiding back here. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with the, let me move this out the way too. So hiding back here in this cubby is a, I'm not gonna take everything out, but you can see is a complete in-box import Sega Saturn. So this is the white or the cream Sega Saturn. I actually picked this up from a gentleman at the start of the pandemic. He was doing a little bit of a clean out. I also have the flash cards, the RAM cards that come with the Sega Saturn. You need this to play certain games. This kind of works the same way, kind of like the expansion pack works on the N64. You have to kind of insert the cartridge and then input the disc into the Sega Saturn for some games to play. This is one of my pride and joys of my collection. I really like this Saturn because I got it primarily for shoot 'em up games, and we'll get to those when further we go in the collection. But also with that, I picked up these two. These are original Sega Saturn wireless controllers. These are some of the original wireless controllers that came out for the Sega Saturn back in the day. They work on like infrared technology, which isn't as good as some of the stuff that we have now, because I think some of the controllers we use today are like more Bluetooth based. But this is just really cool. It's really sick to see how ahead of the curve Sega Saturn was with just these wireless controllers, and it's just so sick to have complete in box. So I really do appreciate having this in my collection. So also what's hiding back here, outside of the Sega Saturn and the controllers, are two of my favorite Wii games of all time, Mario Kart Wii and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And then I have two Wiis. Why do I have two Wiis, you ask? Well, this is the pretty Wii. This is the one that looks, you know, pretty much new. But this Wii is my original Wii. I've had this since about 2006. This is the one that had the GameCube ports on it. I lost the little door you know, flap or whatever that, you know, covers the ports, but I also kept this GameCube because when the GameCube store was available, I had purchased a lot of games like Streets of Rage. I had Streets of Rage on the GameCube, a ton of Super Nintendo games on my GameCube. Not GameCube, on my Nintendo Wii. So there's a lot of downloaded games on this, and that's why I kept that. Next to this is also my Wii U. So I've got a Wii U back here. And then let's get into some of the games that I have in the collection. So I'm going to put these back because I've already showed you the Sega Saturn, and we'll talk about my Wii and Wii U collection. So I have a really small Wii and Wii U collection. This is it for me. This is my Wii and Wii U collection. The standout games for me on the Wii U were Xenoblade Chronicles X. This was one that I needed to have in the collection. Made some of the most sense to me. Super Paper Mario, I got this because I don't think you can play this on any other console. I think this only came out on the Wii U. So I was really glad to get that. Bayonetta 2, Wind Waker, and Rodea Sky Soldier round out the other Wii U games in my collection. My Wii collection is really small. Wii has a ton of shovelware, and I'm not interested in any of it. Only games that mattered to me were Super Paper Mario, Tatsunoko versus Capcom. This is still sealed. You know, I'm a big Marvel versus Capcom guy, and unfortunately, this game did not come out on any other console but the Wii. That's so strange. This would have killed on the PlayStation. Like, this game would have dominated if it would have came out on the PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 2, but no dice on that. Dragon Ball Revenge. This is like a 3D beat 'em up on the Wii. You guys gotta check this out. This game is actually pretty sick. Castle of Shikigami 3. Whew. I mean, if you play Castle of Shikigami 2, I think this is Seal 2. Yeah, this is Seal 2. I had Shikigami 2 on the PlayStation 2. That's a fun shoot 'em up. These are fun shoot 'em ups. Pandora's Tower plays a lot like God of War. It feels like God of War. And you can actually use the more like traditional controller on this game. This is actually a really cool like adventure hack and slash style game on the Wii. Check that out, Pandora's Tower. And then of course, Muramasa the Demon Blade. If you're a fan of Odin Sphere, this is a game that you will want to check out on the Wii. It plays a lot like Odin Sphere, has that whole hack and slash 2D vibe to it, so check it out. So those are the notable games in my Wii collection. Then I've got some Game Boy Advance games here. So this is my sealed Game Boy Advance collection. Special shout outs go to games like Special Forces and Special Forces 2. These games are like kind of like Metal Slug. They feel like Metal Slug. They're basically run and gun shooters. The crown jewel of my Advance collection is this complete in box copy of Drill Dozer. This is one of the only games on the Game Boy Advance that actually rumbles when you play it. It has a rumble feature in it. So, did you like that? I just shook the camera when I said rumble. So this one has a pretty cool rumble feature on it. I would check that one out. Another notable game in my sealed collection is my copy of Guardian Advanced Heroes. If you've never played Guardian Heroes on the Sega Saturn, this is a great way to just experience that franchise. They're really, really cool side-scrolling like hack and slash beat 'em up games. Really, really cool game. Check that out. Advanced Guardian Heroes. All right, keeping this train moving, we'll move down to the next cubby. I think this is the last cubby in this shelf, and this is the cubby that houses all of the rest of my 3DS and DS games. Now down here, a couple ones that stand out right off top. Obviously, Ever Oasis, which is hiding back there. Shinobi, Kirby's Triple Deluxe, right? Those ones kind of stand out. You've also got Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. That's sealed. Castlevania. I love that game. Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack is also a notable one. I don't have a lot of 3DS games. I just got a bunch of action-style 3DS games. My DS collection is the collection that I love. I got a ton of DS games, and they're all kind of similar. You'll notice that, right? So, The Legend of Cage, a couple notable ones that stand out here. Commando Steel Disaster. This is what would happen if Gunstar Heroes and Metal Slug had a child. It would create this game right here called Commando Steel Disaster. If you've never heard of that, you have to play that on the DS. A pretty cool beat 'em up, Tokyo Beatdown. Check that game out. Contra 4, Metal Slug 7, 2 run and gun shooters, classic on the DS. A couple shoot 'em ups, Nano Stray and Nano Stray 2. We all know about Mega Man and the Zero collection. Aliens is a pretty tight run and gun shooter. You got the Castlevania games here. Bangai-O. All my Dreamcast lovers, you know about Bangai-O. They came out with a version of it on the DS. This is kind of like an arena style shooter, like an arena style mech shooter. A really unique game. Check that out, Bangai-O. Got a couple of RPGs here, Lufia and Steel Princess. And then a couple more DS games, Kid Icarus, that's brand new, as well as Cocolopopo and Cocolopopo 3D. I think this was one of the last games released on the DS by Strictly Limited Games. Check that out. And then more DS games, right? Ones that pop out to me, Thundercats, that's a sick game. The Legend of Starfy Very colorful and beautiful pixel artwork on that game. Same thing with Kirby. Superstar Ultra, very good looking game. Super Peach, I think this is the only system that you could play this game. Super Princess Peach, I would check that out. Underwater Shark Attack, I think I got this year in a trade. Suikoden, more Kirby games. Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, one of the best Castlevania games on the DS, as well as A Monster's Tale, which is a very unique game. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that. Chrono Trigger and Kirby's Squeak Squad. So yeah, this little cubby is the place that houses all of my DS, 3DS games, my Vita, PSP games. A lot of my handheld stuff is in this cubby, and this is the station that I have set up for just testing games and everything like that. So that does it for this part of the collection. I'm gonna break it up. At first I was gonna break it up into 2 parts, but I think I'm gonna break it up into 3 parts because this video is already at about 20 minutes, and I think I'm gonna wind up spending another 20 minutes moving on over to my PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and GameCube shelf. So stick around for that. In part 2, I'll be talking about the PlayStation, GameCube, Sega Saturn, and then hopefully in part 3 we can get through all of my Nintendo Switch stuff and then talk about my retro collection, which includes Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. But for now, that does it. Let me know if you saw anything so far in the collection that like jumps out at you, or maybe there's something that I have here in my collection that maybe you have in yours. Any games that you see that you love, any games that you see that you are playing now, let me know down in the comments. I am the Y2K Collector. Thank you for dropping by, and more to come in part 2. Take it easy.